Buenos dias, Jen, and thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlight Series. Today, I'm excited to introduce Jen Munro, the Managing Director of ISSOS International. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Now, Jen, ISSOS provides exclusive, well-balanced summer programs catering to 13 to 18-year-olds from over 80 nationalities with 3 locations: St. Andrews, Cambridge, and Yale University, offering students a summer experience like no other. So, Jen, how did you end up in this business? Is this something you wanted to do as a child, or how did it come up in your head?
No. Growing up, my dad was a serial entrepreneur, or as somebody once called him, a habitual entrepreneur. So starting a business was really something that I learned round a dinner table. And I saw both the highs and lows of starting and running a business. So I was under no illusion. But growing up, it was always something that for me was an option, a very valuable option. If I had an idea, then just do it yourself. But while I was at school and most of the time when I was at university, I really wanted to go into media of some sort, or be a theatre producer, which was my sort of thing that I loved. But while I was at university, I went to summer camp in America through an organisation called Camp America, which I'm sure everybody has heard of. And I went to this lovely, fairly small summer camp in the mountains of North Carolina. And I thought I was going for one summer to enjoy 9 weeks and have this sort of random experience. But the reality was within a week, I'd kind of fallen in love with, 200 camp counselors, 60 students or 60 kids, and was kind of blown away by this unique environment that had been created. 4 years later, having gone back for 4 summers and written a training program for them, I really started to question what I really wanted to do with my life. And, you're 23 years old, you've just graduated, and you think it's a big decision, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Which in itself is a ridiculous question. And I realized that what I loved about this place was this safe place to create for people to sort of learn and grow. And it made me the best version of myself. And I really wanted to harness that. And I thought, yeah, I need to do something that is going to impact young people. I don't know how I'm going to do that. And I don't know, in what form that's going to take. Came back home and realized that there was nothing like summer camps in the UK. And maybe that market in the UK at the time didn't really exist. And maybe it was more something that allowed international students to come to the UK to discover it as a place to study, but also to travel later in life and culturally introduce them to the UK. And what that manifested in was a summer school that was more academic, always taught by fully qualified professionals, and brought together kids from all different nationalities rather than one singular nationality. And yeah, I started it at 25 and it kind of, has developed into what it is today. So it's been a great journey though, really fun.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now you said, so the trigger event was an experience you had in the US.
Yes.
And you were used magical, and you use the word, the best version of myself. And then you're doing something which I guess is magical 20 years on, and is making you the best version of yourself, which is a dream life. You also said, I didn't know the format. So we say sometimes people want to set up a business and they have to have everything planned out, everything worked out. And that's not entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurial is you don't know, you have the vision and not the detail, and you just go for it. Tell us a little bit more about that, transition.
So that's an interesting one. Obviously, summer camps existed in the US. There was a format, but if you know anything about summer camps in the US, there's about 300 different kinds of summer camp. They all have different formats. And when I started ISSOS, there was no kind of rule book to look to. And so really it was saying, right, there's a blank sheet of paper. What do we want to try and create? Now, how do we get there? And let's create that roadmap. And we didn't get it right the first year. Silly things like debate, which we have in all 3 of our campuses, was an elective subject. So after students had been in class for 3 hours in the morning, they suddenly went to debate for 3 hours and took part in what is, you know, a fairly hard academic. So you learn from the things that you do and from the formats that you put in place, and you just have to have the flexibility to change them to address, I suppose, the market that you're working in and make sure it works for them and everybody associated with it. So I find having a blank sheet of paper really exciting. I am dyslexic, so it's one of my superpowers where I get to kind of go, right, well, how do we make this as simple as possible? Stop confusing things. And that's maybe why ISSOS runs the way it does, where it's a very simple program to sort of follow. So yeah, I think blank sheet of paper far easier. Does mean that at times when you're starting a business that there are less people to call upon, but there's always people to call upon for advice, you know, be it a lawyer, accountant, someone who's set up a business before, because conceptually they are all kind of the same. It's just the format by which you run it is slightly different. So, but for me, it was a really exciting opportunity because I got to structure something the way I wanted to structure it, got to employ people the way I wanted to employ them. You know, there was no titles to follow. I wasn't like, oh, well, we must need an admissions director. We need somebody to do market. You know, it was very much a case of let's make up the titles, let's make up the positions because that's what the company needs. So yeah, I find that exciting. Not everybody does, but I thought that was great fun.
Brilliant. I mean, you've said a few things that I want to go back to. You said, well, first of all, you said the word opportunity. When you came back to the UK, you saw a gap in the market, and you've gone for that. You also said about doing it your own way. The people you wanted to recruit and the structure you wanted to have. Tell us a little bit more about, because obviously a lot of the things are coming from your inside of your vision, and then you're just pulling the strings. So tell us about that journey of how do you come up, you know, with your business model? Yeah.
I think part of it is you jump in, you see what works and what doesn't, and then you change it. And I think as the business evolved, I would say about sort of 6 years into the business, where, you know, we had a fairly solid business by that point. I was asked to go to America and do a TED talk on, at the time it was called Putting Heart Back on the Agenda. What I did not realize was really what I was talking about was a values-based business. When I came home really with this kind of fire in my belly to talk and help companies work in a very different way, where culture and values were really the key to their businesses. And the reason behind that was because I realized that that's exactly how I had grown ISSOS and how I'd put the right people in place. And so 6 years into the business, I sat down and said, right, with the people that worked at ISSOS at the time, let's put our values down on a piece of paper and let's make sure that these values run through everything that we do. And when we sat down and did that, we all had the same values, and we've now refined them. We've gone from 9 values to 6, and we very much use our values as a moral compass, but also as a decision-making compass within the business. So, you know, when we looked at where do we open in America, we looked at our values. You know, was it safe? Was it going to offer a quality program? Were we able to offer a level of service, build a community, all these different things? And if it ticked all those boxes, then we can do it. And we make sure that those values run through all of our summer schools and that our culture runs through all of them. And that's what that has allowed us to do, is to expand a business to a nice level, but making sure that that quality and those values run through absolutely everything. And we've used it to employ people as well, both during the summer and within our head office. So those have really been our sort of guiding light in growing the business.
That's brilliant. Your values, your moral compass, your decision-making compass, that is so important to have that focus, to bring your vision into execution, and attracting the people you want, right? It's a filter, isn't it?
It is. And I think that's, when you say focus, I think that is a key for a lot of people who've got an entrepreneurial mindset. You know, it's a bit like a butterfly brain. You know, you can be like, concentrated on something and then you're like,
Yes.
oh, pretty picture, and you're off into a different tangent. And I think the values and staying true to our company culture has helped me focus and go, no, does that fit our values? No, then Jen, you're not interested in that. Because in a lot of people who start in business, the first 3 years you're very concentrated in your own business, and then people start coming along sort of dangling a carrot in front of you and going, oh, would you be interested in investing in this? Would you be interested? And it's very easy to just,
Yes.
of course.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that some of those carrots don't have great worth, but for me, I think those values and that culture have really helped me keep going and be focused on ISSOS first and foremost, and then be able to look at other things as well.
Yes. You mentioned carrots is what I call, shiny objects. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shiny objects there. And if you're entrepreneurial, lots of ideas come to your mind, but it's having the focus to execute. There is I think I don't know if it was a TED talk or something. It was Bill Gates, his father, and Warren Buffett. The three of them were being interviewed, and one 11-year-old boy from the audience asked a question saying, excuse me, I'm an 11-year-old. I would love to achieve, what you've achieved. What piece of advice would you give me, 11-year-old? And the three of them said the exact same word, focus. Three of them at the same time. That was where the magic happened, Yeah, so true. And so many entrepreneurs, fall short of the mark because they stop, getting sidetracked with so many, ideas. And
Totally.
I love the mantra, you can do anything, but not everything,
And it's difficult, I think, when you do have an entrepreneurial mindset,
Yes.
you see opportunity in everything.
Yes.
And everything can make money if you focus on it, but
Yes.
that's the problem. You don't always
Yes.
focus on
Yes.
the right things. So
Yes.
it's a difficult.
Jen, are you the visionary in the business? Are you familiar with the term the visionary and the integrator?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm the visionary. So I very much have always come up with the plans and sort of guided people towards them. And sometimes I have to kind of, I think it's difficult when you've got a company that's 18 years old, because you sit there and you go, right, hold on, that might be my vision, but is everybody else going to come along with me? Or do we have the building blocks in place in order to create that vision? So where, 18 years ago, you just go, just go for it, we're fine. Let's see what's going on. You've got the responsibility more 18 years on. But yeah, I think it's still really important when you run a business or you have a business to take that time out to continue to dream. That I dreamed a lot 18 years ago, and then you get so involved with the running of a business that you have to take time out to go, where is it we're going and what is it that we really want to do here? And how do we refresh and get there again?
Yeah. Are you the type of person who would go into a meeting with your team members with 20 ideas?
Yes. Yeah, I have our brand and marketing manager only started working here 6 months ago. And I said to her, I'm just going to apologize right now. I constantly have ideas specifically about marketing. I love the whole idea of, what makes people tick, what makes people want to engage with something. And I think on a daily basis, she sits there and she goes, yes, what is it? What have you got an idea about today? I'm like, so sorry. But yes, I do. And I sometimes have to kind of realize that not everybody else's brain works that way. So where I find it exciting to fire 20 ideas at people, that is not necessarily the most effective way to get them executed, because other people are sitting there going, I'm going to remember one of these things. Talking about. So yeah, it's.
Yeah, many companies, 50% of the companies have a visionary, and that's what you are, what I'm hearing. And there is another role, which is the integrator.
Yeah.
Is the person who will execute the visionary's vision on the day-to-day. Visionaries, the majority of visionaries, they hate to be drawn into the trenches, into the day-to-day execution, and then they have some. Is there anybody in the team that helps you on the execution, because you have all the ideas, all the vision, you are the relationship builder, the big problem solver, but the day-to-day, the nitty-gritty, do you have somebody to help you on that?
We've got 6 people. So
You need 6.
where there is me in the office that comes in with lots of ideas, I have 6 incredible all women who work with me who have very specific jobs. So, you know, operations, admissions, dealing with the students and parents, customer experience and what that experience looks like for everybody involved, our recruitment director, an executive assistant, and marketing and brand. So within all of those roles tends to be where one of my ideas can go. And they're brilliant at executing it and kind of
brilliant.
So yeah.
You're in the flow. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Tell us, through COVID, I mean, you were before, during, and survived COVID. What changes do you have to make during the COVID, period, and how do you get through it?
COVID was an interesting one for us as well as it was for many people, but we went home in the March 2020 with 3 summer schools that were nearly completely full for that summer. And in the May had to cancel all of them. So that was a new experience for everybody. Something that you work 9 months to put together and suddenly you're having to cancel it. And then we really had to look at, well, we don't know how long this is going to last. How are we going to get through this? We were very fortunate at the beginning of COVID because as a business, we were quite a cash-rich business. I knew that we could get through effectively 3 years if we had to of not trading, keep everybody on, and then sort of start again. Now, that wasn't what I wanted to do, but I knew that we could. And that we were a very fortunate position because when I first started ISSOS, there was a lot of people who said to me, oh, have 10 summer schools, borrow money, go for it. Now, had I done that, I would not be sitting here today with ISSOS still as a company. So we were very fortunate in that position. When COVID hit and we cancelled the summer schools, we started looking at online teaching for the following summer. We did it. By the time the following summer came around, students could at that point go and sit by their swimming pool in Madrid. They did not want to come and listen to an online class about creative writing. So it didn't really work, but we felt we needed to do something as a responsibility to those students that did want to do something. We tried to pull social media and things like that from anywhere we could in order to make sure that the students that we had in the past and those who wanted to come in the future still felt part of something. It was difficult, but we did it. And the thing I found very difficult about COVID was trying to maintain a company culture which was very much centered around being together in an office. And we managed to do it, and it was difficult. And it was trying to keep the sort of 6 people that we have in head office really together and focused on something, but we weren't really trading. And we made a few differences. Well, we changed quite a lot of things, actually. So our operations director at the time, when we went into COVID, I, for a long, long time, had believed that there was a better role for her skill set in that the most incredible ability to build and create relationships, but also has been with the company for 15 years, so knows exactly how things should be running. And so we changed that role and made her a customer experience director. So her sole focus really is to focus on that experience that we are delivering to our customers, be they parents or students, you know, from the time that they apply all the way through to the time that they leave the summer school. What does that look like? And how do we enhance that experience? So we changed that. We went, after we came back after COVID, we went to 1 day working from home. So Wednesday, everybody has the option to work from home. But I was very sort of resolute in that if we could come back into the office, let's come back into the office, because we effectively are like a glorified events company. So we bounce off each other. We need to hear what's going on. We've always done a 4-day working week up until February. So September to February, we do a 4-day working week. We did that before COVID, and we continue to do that. It's quite a nice thing to do, especially when things aren't as busy. And then after February, they become too busy to do so. But otherwise, the things that we changed probably were to be slightly more on top of numbers in terms of finances. and really give people individually that responsibility within the office rather than it all being on me looking at that. But otherwise, we changed some of our academics in order to fit, you know, the things that had happened during COVID. But when we came back after COVID, we came into a very different market, which was really interesting. You know, we left the office in 2020. You had probably a few key players in the summer school business. We came back, there was less of them that survived, but the English language market really disappeared to some level. A lot of those English language schools went by the wayside. And we came back into a market which was very summer school strong rather than just English language and summer schools together. So a different market. Parents quite nervous about travel, understandably. We changed some of our procedures within the summer school in terms of communicating with parents if students got colds and all that kind of stuff. And we came back into a world that is quite unsettled. So, you know, we've got a huge amount of students. We used to have students from Ukraine, Russia. We used to get students from Israel and Palestine. And that's changed a lot. And it's changed the atmosphere within a summer school as well. You know, our biggest focus now has to be on really trying to create that international community within a 3-week summer program and really focus on that and hone down on that, what that means and what that means in terms of the way how we expect students to act and speak and react to things. So that's been really, really interesting. It's not necessarily a direct result of COVID, but yeah, we've made some interesting changes from COVID. COVID was painful, I'm sure, for most people. Definitely taught some lessons, and some lessons that will probably be really valuable and you know, you'll never forget.
Definitely. Wow, that's quite a story. So you said we came back after COVID and it was a different industry. Do you tweak your curriculum, if you like, in terms of mindset, mental health, because younger people got affected through it? Do you do anything on that?
Yeah, so one thing that everybody will have noticed is that everybody's concentration span since COVID has just been decimated. We spent 2 years online, where before COVID, we used to design academic and elective classes where we would say to teachers, you have to capture a student's attention in the first 20 seconds. We now say to them, you have 2 seconds to capture a student's attention or you've lost them. That's increasingly difficult for people who are teaching. But it also changed our marketing because our website, all of our social media, everything had to capture students' and parents' attention far, far quicker than it ever did before. And in terms of curriculum, the one thing that we did change specifically, we used to have a pre-IB, pre-International Baccalaureate studies course. Now we have a study skills course that covers all different curriculums because there were so many students who were looking for that, you know, study skills that would take them to the last 2 years of school / university. So yeah, we made some changes, not a huge amount of curriculum changes, but there is definitely some opportunities that have come over the last few years, not necessarily because of COVID, but certainly over the last few years that will change what we offer. English before COVID used to be one of our biggest academic. We would have 4 English teachers in each campus, at least 40 to 60 students taking English. We've got 16 students taking English in St Andrews this year. Whether it's because people were taking, you know, watching TV, their English was just improving constantly through COVID. They've got to such a level that they want to take things like debate or study skills or business and entrepreneurship, different ways of doing English. And thankfully, we've always done that. So, you know, it's just about offering more of different subjects rather than just focusing on English. So, yeah.
That's very, very interesting. Well, myself, when I was 17, I came from Valencia to London and I went to a school of English in Oxford Street. It was high demand for it. I wonder what now, post-COVID, is like, whether some of them have closed down, you know?
I think a lot of the English language schools closed down because they had buildings and because they didn't get rent relief over COVID, or any kind of relief. They just couldn't afford their buildings. So therefore the company went under. And it's a real shame because there's still a huge need for English language generally.
Definitely.
And a lot of them still do exist, but a lot of them have gone online.
Yes.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on, we didn't get it right first time. So tell us a little bit about, because it happens with all businesses, you know, you don't get it right first time. You certainly don't. Okay. So what is that? Tell us a little bit more, not getting it right. And then, you know, what do you do?
So I think with any business, you've got to have the flexibility and ability to change. And I think as somebody who sets up a business, you have to have the humility to listen to your clients, to know what they want and what they need, as well as the staff that are working there. And so for us, you know, we offered an academic that was really an elective or vice versa. We started off by saying 10% of any given nationality could come to the summer school. It sounded like a nice thing to do initially, and then became a massive appeal to a lot of parents. And it's still something we do. And that is really difficult, I think, as a business owner and somebody who wants to always expand the business, where you've got one nationality who every year we fill for, and we cannot take any more students from that nationality. It's a really difficult, odd sort of dichotomy to be in. And I think, yeah, there was lots of things that went wrong. I've employed the wrong person. And I think certainly in a team, you know, 7 of us in this office, we all got on really, really well. You put one person that doesn't get on or doesn't live by the same values, and it can destroy a whole culture. So definitely have got that wrong, and you've got to just adapt quickly or get rid of them. There are lots of different things. I think initially I find the numbers of business pretty boring. It's not my focus when it comes to business. I actually probably think it's not a lot of people who run a business's focus, but you make that mistake and then you miss things. And so I think you've got to know your numbers, whether that is your skill set or the bit that you enjoy about business or not. Carve out time to do that.
Yes.
And I think I think everybody does this when they start a business. You have to do everything. It is just the nature of starting a business. But very early on, you have to then go, right, what are the things that I really am not good at? Of which I've got a long list. So I was like, right, now I have to fill these gaps. So I have to get a really good accountant because I'm awful with numbers. And, you know, let's look at the other skill sets that absolutely need to be filled in this company. But also, what do I want my role, or what do I need my role to be in this company, you know, so that I can really hone in on the things that I'm really, really good at, and excel and make the company brilliant in those aspects, and then hire people that are better than me in the other aspects so that you can grow a company. And I think very, very early on, you're always going to make the mistake of doing things that you're not brilliant at, because you have no choice, I think, with a lot of companies.
Yes.
But you just have to have that flexibility to change.
And I guess that's why Nelson Mandela said that mantra, I always win, I never lose, I always win or learn.
Yes, absolutely, totally.
Yeah.
And I think that is the thing about starting a business, is you have to be open to learning from everybody.
Yes.
And, you know, for us, we're lucky we work with young people, and young people will tell you when they don't like something instantly, which is brilliant. And you've got to have the ability. I always say that to our staff every summer. As much as the young people are going to learn from you, you have to be open to learning from them. Some of the greatest lessons I've learned in life, but also in business, have been from the young people that we work with.
Yes. Brilliant. It's great to hear what you said. I am not good with numbers. And this is great for people watching this recording, that you don't need to be great with numbers to run a business successfully. And at the end of the day, you only need to know 5 numbers very, very well. That's
True.
Brilliant. What are your plans, say 5 years from now? What are your aspirations as a business?
So last year when I got asked that question, I said to rebuild from COVID, but you know, we've now done a fairly good job of that. So we will probably expand within the 3 campuses that we currently have, because we have the capacity to do so in some of them. We'll probably look at opening another campus elsewhere when the time is right and the students kind of dictate it. But one of our focuses will be in the next 5 years to making sure that our values and our culture is maintained and that we are still offering a quality program. One of the things at the end of every summer, we sit down and we look at a summer program, how it worked, how it didn't work, what we want to change. And we change things every single year. And I don't know many businesses there's not many businesses that run seasonally, but certainly a business that runs seasonally, to be able to sit down every single year and go, how do we improve on that? And we've done that for 18 years. And so that is really, really key to us, that we are delivering something that is really having a positive impact on the students and the staff that interact with ISSOS as a whole.
Yes, well, that's sharpening the saw, meeting it once a year, sharpening the saw. That's the principle, that the 7 habits of Stephen Covey's 7 habits. So great. So just wrapping up, what would you say to your 18-year-old self?
Trust your gut and never go against your gut, and believe that actually it will work out, and accept the things you cannot control and focus on the things that you can. I always say that people at work the same way that they drive. And it's so true. Like, if I get in the car with my operations director, who, is constantly trying to solve everybody else's problems and, everything, get in the car and she'll be sitting next to me, I'm driving, and she'll be shouting at somebody that's in a lane that's got nothing to do with her going the opposite way. And I'm like, what has that got to do with you? Focus. We are in a car, focus on it. And I think that kind of lesson of, it's a serenity prayer, I suppose, accept the things that you cannot change, and change the things you can, has been a massive, massive lesson to me. And maybe if I'd learned that at 18, I would have been more accepting and kind of a bit more chilled out about it all. But actually, I suppose at 18, you kind of need that curiosity. Well, you always need that curiosity, but just that excitement about going for it. But I think knowing that it will all work out, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, great advice. And I love your analogy on the driving. I translate that into the mantra. What was it? It's going my the analogy of driving. What was it? You said. Anyway, it escaped me. I was thinking about something else.
Is it Warren Buffett? He always takes people out on a golf course before he employs them, because he thinks the way that they play golf is the way that they.
Correct. That's the one. Thank you so much. So the generic mantra is that the way you do anything is the way you do everything. That's what it is. Thanks for that. And in fact, I was playing with a client 2 years ago, playing golf, and Warren Buffett thing came to my mind because he was answering phone calls.
Oh, yeah.
And it was laughable in a way because he was going to tee off and he was still on the call and put the phone on the shoulder with it was and I said to him, I'm going to call him John. Okay, John, the way you play golf is the way you run your business.
Yeah.
And the guy, that was a great learning. So anyway, if he's watching this, he'll be laughing.
Well, it's fun. I go to the gym every morning, and there was a girl in the gym. I'd probably been at the gym with her for 6 months. And I said to her one day, I was like, you would be a great head counselor with us. And she said, how do you know that? You've never interviewed me. I said, I've worked out with you for 6 months. I said, you're brilliant at motivating people. You never give up. You keep going. I was like, that's exactly the mentality that we want. And she was like,
yes.
I was like, it's so true. You go to a gym with people and you think, you'd be great. Excellent.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I love it. Okay, well, Jen, it's been a real pleasure to have you join us today at Business Spotlights, and thank you for sharing your experience and wisdom with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.